one of the fairly consistently difficult industries in insurance has been schools. And that hasn't really changed. Actually, it's gotten more complicated, and a lot of the MSP partners we talk to will probably tell you, even if they do work with schools, that working with schools is not an easy thing when it comes to cybersecurity, when it comes to, if you talk to our agency partners, when it comes to getting that insurance policy in place by usually July 1st. And a big reason for this is the budget cycle. So you talk to anyone who works with schools, especially public school districts, where they have to, take an annual vote on their budgets from the community, right? From the actual public needs to vote on that budget. And because of that, there's a lot of uncertainty, and therefore there's a lot of actionable steps that can be taken in a timely manner in order to get the proper security in place that will then get you the proper insurance coverage. And what's interesting, and something I want to talk about today, is this PowerSchool attack. Right? If you haven't heard about the PowerSchool attack, we're going to go over it. We're going to talk about exactly what it was, but what's interesting is this had nothing to do with how equipped the school itself, the schools that used PowerSchool actively were. It has nothing to do with how equipped they were with security. This has to do with your third-party vendors and managing those third-party vendors and the risk that using third-party vendors, and the reality is most people use them. But the risk that we run, right? I mean, it's a much smaller scale, but at the same time, it's similar to how CrowdStrike functioned. CrowdStrike went down, and now you had all these businesses. This was global, but you had businesses all over the world unable to operate because a vendor that they used made their systems inoperable. Now, PowerSchool is a little different. We're going to jump into that. But a lot of MSPs we talk to struggle to secure schools because again, the budget cycle is a challenge. Getting the right security in place is a challenge. Convincing them that they even need the security, teaching them what the security is, it's all very difficult, and it becomes even more difficult when you have to incorporate those costs into an annual budget vote that, a lot of people may not understand the need for that cybersecurity within the public. So there's a lot of factors that make it challenging. So let's talk about PowerSchool, though. So we're gonna jump over to this article. This is excuse me, this is coming to us from TechCrunch. So EdTech giant PowerSchool says hackers accessed personal data of students and teachers. So there's a lot of, again, third-party vendors out there. In particular, PowerSchool is apparently serving a massive amount. They say serving more than 75% of students in North America. I mean, they're no small business. This is no small tiny organization that maybe got their feelers out there for a couple of schools. No, they are servicing 3/4 of the student body, at least according to their website. Now, here's the catch, right? So, in a letter sent to affected customers on Tuesday, this would be January, back in a week ago that they're talking about it, but it was published in local news. PowerSchool said it identified on December 28th that hackers successfully breached its PowerSource customer support portal, allowing further access to the company's school system, PowerSchool SIS, which schools use to manage student records, grades, attendance, and enrollment. The letter said the company's investigation found the hackers gained access using a compromised credential. Okay, so your vendors, right? This is why it's so important to vet your vendors, because the vendor themselves, PowerSchool here, if they had a compromised credential, does that mean they didn't have MFA enabled somewhere, or was it someone? You're not an end user accessing PowerSchool here and able to gain access to the entire infrastructure of the system, unless there's some serious backdoor issues with that, with PowerSchool, which I don't think that's the case. What I'm guessing is this is some compromised admin level account. So something as simple as having 2FA on there could have prevented this entire thing. Did they have it? I don't know. Nothing in the news about that yet. But PowerSchool has said, or has not said, what types of data were accessed for sure, and we're going to get to that in a minute, during the incident, or how many individuals are affected by the breach. And they didn't respond to TechCrunch for questioning. Now, the nature of the cyber attack remains unknown, Bleeping Computer reports that in an FAQ sent to affected users, PowerSchool said it did not experience a ransomware attack, so there was no real downtime. So they weren't. It's not like schools lost access. Again, this isn't quite like uh, a vendor going down and you not being able to access your payroll systems because of it. You're not losing access to things per se, but the company was extorted into paying a financial sum to prevent the hackers from leaking the stolen data. So didn't shut down PowerSchool, but got a ton of data that they said we're going to leak unless you pay us. Now, PowerSchool told the publication that names and addresses were exposed in the breach, but that the information may also include social security numbers, medical information, grades, and other personally identifiable information. And they did not say how much they paid. Now, think about if you're a parent for a minute and you get word from the administration of your child's school that they are a user of PowerSchool and your child's data may have been leaked in this incident. I mean, think about the blowback that 75% of schools across the country may be facing because of this. People are going to come after PowerSchool. Things are not going to look good for them in the immediate future. Now, I don't know how far this is going to go and where this is going to be, but there are a lot of angry schools out there. You just Google responses from schools that are currently going through the PowerSchool incident, and it sounds like there's a good amount of lawsuits ramping up. So we're going to see where that goes. But this other kind of piece here is a little interesting too. PowerSchool was sued by class action in November 2024, so just a couple months ago, alleging that the company illegally sells student data without consent for commercial gain. According to the lawsuit, the company's troves of student data totals some 345 terabytes of data collected from 440 school districts. Regardless of if that's true or not, again, another reason that we need to be vetting our vendors. Like if I am using a platform that is in the T's and C's is actively able to turn my data around and sell it, especially if that data includes the data of my children. I mean, we got to be thinking about this. So here's the thing, right? MSPs, I don't know how much sway you have in telling your school districts that you do work with what LMSs to use and what ed tech platforms to use and management systems. There's all sorts of components, payroll systems. I don't know how in the weeds you get as an individual MSP. But there is an important component here. A couple of important components. So I'm going to start from the cybersecurity space, and we're going to kind of whittle it down to the cyber insurance space. So one, and let me just go back to here. So one, not 11. One thing to think about here is the realities that we need to be educating our clients on what software they're using and how to determine if that software is good. I mean, that needs to become a component of security awareness training. We can't simply say, hey, look, search for phishing emails. If this phishing email comes out, well, you know what to look for. Click that little hook in the top right corner and report it. No, they need to know it needs to go much deeper, especially when we get to the decision maker level. It needs to go a lot deeper than just watch out on what to look for when it comes to suspicious emails. I mean, at this point, we're talking about things like how to understand if your vendors are utilizing ethical practices with your data, where that data is being held, how it's being kept, how it's being secured. Do your vendors utilize things like multi-factor authentication? Are they secure? Right? Just because it's some easy to use fancy platform, is it the right solution? I don't know. Right? But that's the layer of security awareness training we need to be emphasizing and pushing our end clients towards. Right? And then here's the insurance angle, and this can lead to some business for you as an MSP, some actual sales of security controls for you as an MSP, because there is an important coverage on cyber insurance called dependent network interruption. And effectively I did speak at this into this a little bit with the CrowdStrike incident, but just to create a little bit of understanding around it, a dependent network interruption, dependent business interruption, dependent business network, whatever, multiple names, but effectively it's saying if you're using a vendor, that vendor causes any sort of downtime or incidents for you. And it doesn't look like that necessarily happened here, so it may not actually apply, but it is important to understand that vendors causing network interruption for you and loss of ability, but it could apply due to the breach of data and the incidents that come into play here. But ultimately, what this is, what that, it's the understanding that ransomware exists over here, right? And ransomware says I don't have access to my systems, but I could also lose access to my systems because I'm working with a vendor that goes down, and my ability to function as an organization is deeply reliant on that vendor's ability to function as an organization. So if they can't operate, I can't operate. That's where something like the dependent business interruption comes in. So you are able to have conversations with your clients about that, about the importance of not only ransomware attacks, but also that, hey, are you using any vendors that you rely on in order to make your business run? Well, what happens if one of them goes down? What are you going to do? How are you going to run your business? And that's where you can kind of lean into the insurance angle and say, well, a good cyber insurance policy covers you against that type of loss, but you're not going to get a good cyber insurance policy without good cybersecurity controls. And there's your angle. There's the way to have the conversation. And if you are an MSP that works with schools, here's your opportunity to have that discussion. With the PowerSchool incident, there may or may not be that insurance need, but at the same time, it is a way to have that conversation that the schools often are relying on vendors for their day-to-day processes. And if those vendors go down or those vendors have data leaks, what's going to happen to them? Because parents could inevitably come after the school. The school's going to have to go after the vendor. It gets real messy. It gets real sloppy. How can you best equip your schools to handle sensitive data? And how can you equip them to be eligible for a cyber insurance policy so that when something like this does happen, if PowerSchool, say, went down completely and schools lost access to their data, schools lost access to their payroll, their student grade portals, whatever exists in there, that downtime would be protected and covered by cyber insurance. So wanted to share this, trying to keep the video under 15 minutes, but it's just a brief review of what happened with PowerSchool and maybe that cybersecurity sales angle approach that you can take utilizing that insurance leverage. Right? If you're working with schools, if you're looking to work with schools, if you're looking for that angle to get in with schools, this might be your opportunity to have that conversation. Make them aware that the vendors they use could potentially lead to downtime for them. Insurance can help with that, but you need to have the right security to get there. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that provides some information on PowerSchool. We're going to probably have a little more to say about that as it rolls out, but just things to consider for you as an MSP as you're looking to utilize your security control knowledge and education and expertise and providing that the best experience for your clients.